Hello everybody and welcome back to VFR. Today we are going to be doing a shorter look at a quick procedure that's going to take you basically from the starting your engines out to before takeoff. So let's hop into the cockpit and look at our setup. Right now what I've had the dynamic duo do is run the before start checklist. So they've gotten all the doors closed, everything is on, we've got ground power, we've got all the things set up. So before start checks are complete. So before you start this, run your before start checklist. Once they tell you that we are good to start our engines, we can go ahead and get to work. Now, settings wise, I have only one realism option enabled, and that is realistic start. So that will change a couple things about the procedure. Now, there's a difference between what is in the pilot's operating handbook that came with the DC-6 and the videos that have been posted as tutorials. So I'm going to assume that to follow the most realistic procedure and the realistic start, we're going to use the POH. So when there's a disagreement between the videos and the pilot's operating handbook, I'm going to draw from the pilot's operating handbook, and that's going to take precedence. So we have realistic engine start, and that is all of our settings. So let's go ahead and get ready to start engines. And then for this, your views are going to be pretty important. I basically have three custom views on my number pad. I have the pedestal here, so I can get at the mixture. I have a central engine gauge one, which is number 5 on my numpad, and number 8 on the numpad is the overhead panel, because we're going to be jumping back and forth between some of these. So the guys have set it up. We're going to be following largely the same procedure as you do for a non-realistic engine start. But same three things. We're going to make sure that the magneto is set to both. So magneto to both. We need to make sure that the fuel booster pump for engine 3 is set to low. Engine selector should be on number 3 because we're going to start that engine. And then whenever we're ready, we can hit the start button. Now we're going to be listening for 12 blades.
3, 6.
And at 12, we're going to boost and prime.
12.
Boost, prime, and then we're going to jump down and give it mixture once it fires. And we have RPM, and now if you get a weird reading, you might have to jimmy the throttles a little bit just to get it back down and make sure you are actually in idle and according to the sim. So that all happens pretty fast. And that's why it's important to set up the custom views. Now in the tutorials that are on YouTube, they put the mixture in first. I don't know if you can do that or not. But I'm just, again, following what it says in the pilot's operating handbook. And they say to do the mixture after the engine fires. So, to repeat the process, we're going to be going engine 3, 4, and then engines 2 and 1. So, to do engine 4, we're going to come over to magneto 4, set it to both. Boost pump 4 to low. Engine selector to number 4. And then we're going to start.
3, 6, 9, 12.
Boost, prime, give it some mixture, and then come back here and check our RPMs. Looks like engine 4 is looking good. Back up to the top, we're going to do engine 2. Go over to both. Fuel pumps to low. And engine selector to number 2, and then we just have to wait for these switches to click back in. They'll click back in once they're ready to go. Okay. So now we're just going to go ahead and keep starting. And once you get this flow, you can move pretty quickly.
6, 9, 12.
Boost, prime, give it some mixture, and make sure it's alive. And we're looking good. So, one more engine. Engine 1. Magneto to both. Fuel pump to low. Engine selector to 1. And another good check is just make sure you have fuel pressure here once you give it the boost pump. Make sure this one for engine 1 comes up, and once you have that, you'll be good to go. We can hit start.
3, 6, 9, 12.
Boost, prime. Give engine 1 mixture, auto rich. And scroll up in the mouse wheel to do that very easily. Just scroll up till it goes to auto rich, and all of our gauges look in line. We've got oil pressure, which is good. Our oil temps are coming up, and our carb air is looking okay. So That's really the engine start procedure. It's not a huge difference, but it is just slightly different from what is in the YouTube tutorials. Would the other way work? I don't know. I haven't tried it, but this is what it says in the POH. Okay, and we're not going to stop there. We're also going to take over some more from the AFE and basically run their after start checklist, because the after start checklist here, if you click on that, it's not that much stuff. So after start checklist, we're going to come up and booster pumps going to come off. So all 4 pumps off. Engine start selector, we want to take that off. Battery, we're going to go to plain battery, and then we want to make sure that the GPU ground power unit is removed. See, the little box is gone now. Back up here, and then we're going to say inverters, which are right here, these 2 switches, checked. And then our generators should be in the up or on position. And then I'm also checking emergency lights, which is over here. Should be set up if you ran the if you ran the before start checklist with the AFE, that should be on. Now, I also have a before taxi checklist that I run through, just because if I'm flying on VATSIM or something, it's good to have that step to make sure everything's in line. I'm going to come up here and make sure whatever exterior lights we need, we've got the beacon on, and that's really what I'm worried about. But if you want to put on other lights, we can do that now. And we need to make sure that the flight plan is briefed and entered. So make sure you have your flight plan written down or tracked. You know what you're doing. Then set in all your radios, nav aids, and GPS. So if you have your GPS here, make sure that's tuned in and good to go. Once I check that, I go down here and just do another scan of the engines, make sure everything is still running, make sure we didn't lose an engine, stuff like that. And then we can go ahead and take the gust lock off. Now, if you run the, I'm not sure if they do it all the time, but yeah, that might be on. So gust lock should come off, and then just check and make sure, hey, I have controls, is my joystick working? Everything, free, clear in the correct sense, and it looks good. Then we're going to get taxi clearance. I'm the only human at this airport, so I am giving myself clearance to taxi. And this one's important. Take the parking brake off, especially if you were going to try and reverse like we are. So parking brake needs to come off, and we'll throw it into reverse. And try and back out of our spot. Now, the runway, which we're going to taxi down to, is just over here. We're really close to, I think it's runway 28 here at Keflavik. So we're going to throw this into reverse and give it some power. And we should power off the stand. And we don't need that much power. We're moving now. And then when we want to stop, we just come back and give it some throttle. Don't slam on the brakes, because you'll strike the tail. Trust me, it's embarrassing. I've done it on YouTube. Okay, we're just going to taxi on out and take a left-hand turn here. Oh, and then as we're going, I'm keeping an eye on the oil temperature, the carb air temperature, just the engine indications. Again, make sure that our engines look good and everything looks okay. I'm also going to go ahead and close my window and lock it. And then, yeah, we're going to really, because this is a big airplane and it can be a little unwieldy, we're just going to focus on taxiing until we get up to the hold point at the runway. And then we'll run the before takeoff checklist. So we'll just keep taxiing out. This also assumes that the run-up has been completed. We'll go through that in the before takeoff checklist. Or that's an item on the before takeoff checklist. If you want to do the run-up, they have a video on it. All the things you should be looking at. So we'll just stop here and run through it. So currently procedure is oil temperature. Check oil temperature, oil pressure. Check your carb here, air heat here. I give it another flight control check just to make sure my joystick's working. We're going to go to flaps 20. So flaps to flap 20. That should be 3 knots if you're counting. And then cowl flaps need to be 4 degrees open. So these knobs all need to go to 4 degrees, which is right here. So cowl flaps 4 degrees open. And if you listen to the AFEs do it, they'll read off these things as well. Boost pumps are going to be as required. If it's a warm day, you would want to turn the boost pumps on to low. High is really only used for emergencies. But you can find a more detailed description of when you should be using the boost pumps in the pilot operating handbook, which you should reference if you're going to operate it, semi-realistically. Air conditioning, I'm feeling pretty good, so we're going to say that air conditioning is good. And then we're going to make sure that our mixtures are in auto rich. Now, if we want to, we can go down to auto lean, save a little bit of fuel when we're taxiing. I didn't, but at this point, you can go down to auto lean, and it'll put less fuel into the engines. But we're going to make sure that these are in auto rich once we are ready for takeoff. So at this point, you have completed the before takeoff checklist. So we've started the engines, we've run an after start checklist, we ran a quick before taxi check, and then we ran before takeoff. So at this point, you are cleared and ready to go to taxi on out to the runway and hit your takeoff button of choice, wet or dry, and the AFE will take care of it. And hopefully this helps. This isn't supposed to be an authoritative guide. This is really more of like, what am I doing at this point? This is kind of the first chunk that I've tried to take away from the AFE, just because it's on the ground, got time to think, and it really isn't that much that they're doing at this stage. The most tricky part, or the most different part, might be the cow flaps and just making sure you're in flaps 20. Other than that, it's really just piloting. So if you set it up now, I don't know, I don't think we're very heavy, so I'm going to go take off dry.
30 inches stabilized.
But now you can just run your regular takeoff checklists.
Stabilized. Cow flaps. Cow flaps. Cow flaps set. Full power, please. Going full power. Full power set.
And we're going to release the brake just like normal. So that's the first chunk I've taken over. It's fun. You get to hit some switches. It's a little bit more manual. But it also gives me a nice check to make sure, hey, I have my flight plan set up. I've got all this other stuff set up that I need to be thinking about that might not be in the POH. And we're at 80. We're going to rotate at 100. We're just going to come back off the stick a little bit, a little hard there. And we're going to pitch for 130. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, comments, ideas for the channel, leave them in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all the usual YouTube stuff. And yeah, hope you guys are enjoying the DC-6. I know I sure am. And it's a lot of fun. We've got plenty of other DC-6 videos in a longer form if that's what you're looking for. So thanks for watching VFR today. Take it easy.